Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. I don't know. This is written as they came up short in the postseason, but I was not impressed with that game against Buffalo. You know, I know they had the turnovers, but Baltimore, which looked awesome for most of the season, really kind of disappointed in that playoff loss. And now they have the fourth best odds to win the Super Bowl next year. In a recent interview, their superstar safety, Kyle Hamilton, said the Ravens have everything you want to win a championship, adding, I've had so many people ask me what the Ravens are missing. I'm like, literally nothing. There's no excuses. And
well, Buffalo was better.
Buffalo's better.
I don't think with Buffalo, sometimes I question whether they can get over the hump with Sean McDermott. I don't question that because John Harbaugh's got a trophy.
Yeah. What about Lamar?
I love him.
I know, in the regular season. What about
well, come on.
Did he have a good playoff game, yes or no, against the Buffalo Bills?
I don't remember the exact numbers.
How convenient.
What were they?
To forget. I'll call them up, but like,
Let me call them up.
They've got to be missing something, Colin. They keep coming up short
Well, they can't beat Andy Reid and Mahomes, okay, and they lost to Josh Allen in Buffalo, okay. What were his numbers in the playoff game?
Okay, against Buffalo, he was 18 of 25 for 254.
Yeah, pretty good.
2 touchdowns, 1 interception, sacked twice, only rushed for 39 yards.
What was his passer rating?
And I believe he had a fumble as well. His passer rating, you think that matters?
Yeah, what was it?
114.4.
Oh, it's interesting. One of the greatest passer ratings ever in playoff history.
No, that's not accurate. But Colin, he also had the fumble. That was brutal. Mark Andrews had the drop, and Mark Andrews had the fumble.
Mark Andrews and Mark Andrews would tell you this, his worst game as a pro. That was a Mark, I think Mark's great. I love him.
This is rich. Every postseason, it's somebody else. Oh, well, we couldn't get by the Chiefs. Mark Andrews had his worst game ever. It's everybody except Lamar Jackson. At some point, doesn't he have to put on the cape and be Superman in a playoff game in January?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, my God. First off, he was going to be Superman. He was leading the Ravens back, and then against the Bills, and his team failed him. I already unpacked that whole thing so much and talked about how all these greats, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, we can go down the list of every single great. They've all thrown interceptions and had fumbles, and then, they were all given opportunities to be able to come back and have big plays, and that's exactly what Lamar Jackson was doing. Obviously, you don't want him to throw an interception or fumble the ball, but he was still putting that team in a position to now tie the game, win the game, whatever it is going to be. And even if he now tied the game, it was then up to his defense to step up and keep that game tied and force overtime, or to get the ball back with, I forget exactly, there was like a minute 30, whatever it exactly was, to get, the Ravens another possession, like we've seen the Patriots do, like we've seen the Chiefs do, right? Like we've seen all these teams do, like we've seen even just more recently the Rams do against the Bengals. Like, there's so many examples of this. I've already unpacked that enough. I'm not going to go through it all over again. I encourage you to look up those videos if you haven't seen them. But, this idea that I want to talk about this a little bit more because there's 2 things I really want to talk about. Colin was just kind of like, well, they can't get past the Bills and the Chiefs. Kind of like, well, what are you going to do? Those are great teams. I want to address that because that's nonsense, number 1. And number 2, we have everything you want to win a championship. I want to address that as well. And they're both kind of, together. There's a lot of overlap with that. First, let's say what Colin says. Oh, well, they can't get past the Bills and the Ravens, the Bills and the Chiefs. That's no longer acceptable. If the Chiefs three-peated, sure, I could understand. But the Eagles absolutely dominated the Chiefs. And that was not a fluke because we saw the Eagles absolutely dominate the Washington Commanders. They hung 95 points in the conference championship game and Super Bowl. There's nothing fluky about that. The Eagles built the best team in the NFL. It can't be argued against. Okay? And again, if you're a Baltimore Ravens fan and you're looking at Jalen Hurts versus Lamar Jackson, there's 2 ways to look at this, okay? And both will back you in a corner because it's like you can say, well, Jalen Hurts is not better than Lamar Jackson. The Philadelphia Eagles just have a better team, okay? So then why don't you build the better team? Why don't you build the better team? You're not capable of building a team that can beat the Chiefs? You've been battling against them for years. You don't know what it takes to beat the Chiefs? That's on you. And then if you want to say, oh, well, Jalen Hurts steps up in the playoffs and Lamar doesn't. Well, again, then it's like, well, then what are you doing about it? What are you doing about it? What are you doing to put Lamar Jackson in a better position to succeed? How are you making life easier for Lamar Jackson then, if that is actually the thing? Like, no matter where you want to slice it, you can't get there. The responsibility still lies on the Baltimore Ravens. And it's not like the Eagles were able to beat the Chiefs when Patrick Mahomes was banged up or this. You can't do it. You can't say, oh, well, their offense isn't as good. Their offense wasn't that good in 23, and they beat you 17-10. And their defense was just as great. And the Eagles were still able to score on that defense. They had the second best defense in the NFL this year, second to only the Philadelphia Eagles. So these things become more indefensible. Yeah, you dominated the Buffalo Bills in the regular season. Where was that in the playoffs then? Where was that? That's on the Ravens. We can't. So when J-Mac has it right but also wrong, because he's like, oh, it's everyone else's fault but Lamar. No, but it can't be everyone else's fault but the Baltimore Ravens. So I hate this idea of just trying to singularly put all the blame on like a Lamar. Yes, in almost every situation, if your quarterback plays a little bit better, no matter the game, no matter the situation, no matter how great of a quarterback you are, yeah, you'll win the game. If Lamar Jackson played 5% better, they could win the game. But if Josh Allen played 5% better, they beat the Chiefs. You know, I mean, like, we can kind of do that all day. If Brock Purdy played 5% better in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, they win. Yeah, that's what happens when you're talking about these very tight margin of errors. And then again, now you look at the Philadelphia Eagles. If Patrick Mahomes played better, the Eagles have still won that Super Bowl. Because that's how good they were. And they've been to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years now. So these aren't flukes. These aren't flukes. They haven't been on the positive receiving end of referee calls, of injuries. You know, like, that's not been the case. They have 2 Super Bowls in the last 7 years. You know, they have 2 Super Bowls since 2017. The Chiefs have 3 since 2018. It's the mark of excellence. And I keep encouraging Baltimore Ravens fans to accept that, to acknowledge that, to understand that, to appreciate that, and then figure out, why is my team not doing that? What decisions does my team need to make? And how do we demand our franchise to do that? How do we put pressure on our team to make the right moves? Because saying, well, it's the Bills and the Chiefs, this is just a tough time to be a quarterback and to be a team. No, that's not acceptable. It's just not. It's really not. I refuse to accept that. I refuse to acknowledge it. Zay Flowers being banged up is a real thing. Yeah, that was a bummer. Well, you should have been smarter and more conservative in that final game of the season then, like the Philadelphia Eagles did. They sat everyone. Yes, the Ravens had more to play for in that game, but still. Zay Flowers is too valuable, too important. And, you know, you have someone like Tom Brady who called the Ravens a sleeping giant. And I don't disagree with that. But their execution has been awful. And it was awful throughout the entire season. Again, I'm not bashing the Ravens here. I'm trying to be honest. And I've defended and praised the Ravens all season long. Check my record. So this is not me just bashing on the Ravens. This is me trying to be like, can you please wake up? Can you please be better? This is on you. This is on you. If the Eagles lost in the Super Bowl, then we could just be like, yeah, man, this is crazy. The Chiefs just run this town. They don't. You could have beat them in 23. You could have beat them in 24. You should have had a better record this season and should have had home field advantage. You should have been a better team. You shouldn't have been a sleeping giant. You should have just been the giant. And you weren't. That's because of you. That's because of the Ravens. It's not, well, Derrick Henry was injured for 4 weeks and Lamar Jackson, remember, he tweaked his back and wasn't the same for those 3 weeks. No. That's not what happened. Poor execution, poor football, poor preparedness, massive amounts of penalties, not stepping up when you need to, having some awesome highs that were like, yeah, this is what they can do, and then also kind of absurd lows and just bad decision making. And yet again, kind of swept under the rug compared to the Philadelphia Eagles, where when they made a couple plays that were a couple decisions that were wrong, or when they hit a rough patch, it was like, we demand that this change. Otherwise, you are Sirianni, you're out of town, bro. Jalen Hurts, if you don't get your act together, we are moving on. Like, there was pressure, true pressure on that team to step up. And then the team came together. The players came together. They had their meetings. They went to the coaching staff and said, come on, dude, this is what we want to do. And they did it. And also, look no further as well. And I called Lamar, and again, I've defended Lamar Jackson so much. But the one thing that stands out to me is that Lamar Jackson is transcendent, unbelievable. And again, I even defended him in this very video about the turnovers in that very playoff game. But again, in the AFC Championship game, he throws an interception. The game is still in the balance. They can still win the game. He throws that interception in the end zone, and he was either slamming the ground or he was like banging his helmet. He was having a big emotional reaction, and it was like, dude, you can still win this game. You can't do that. You can't be that type of player. You're the quarterback. You're the leader. You're the guy that everyone is looking to. From the punter to the receivers to the defensive, like everyone is looking to you. Jalen Hurts threw an interception in the Super Bowl, and you would have thought like it was nothing. Like he actually just threw a touchdown. You would think that the score was already 45-0. When it wasn't. It was 0-0. It was 7-0 or 0-0. Whatever it was still, the game was still the game. It was not, it wasn't a non-factor in that game. Like it was at that point, it was like it could have been something. And it was like nothing. He immediately went to the team. He started talking to the O-line. They started having discussions. And again, I don't even necessarily blame Lamar for that. That's where I blame coaching and culture. And Lamar deserves some blame for that. But I would still put that on coaching to kind of guide him through that. To be the player that he needs to be the leader that he needs to be. Because we know Lamar is willing to put in the work. That is the most obvious thing ever. And we know Lamar wants it more than anything. That's the most obvious thing ever. But to say we have everything you want to win a championship is just wrong because you didn't win a championship. And your execution was wrong. And again, I love using the Philadelphia Eagles as an example, and you might get sick of it, but again, I really encourage you to just accept it because the Philadelphia Eagles were right there to win the Super Bowl in 22. And they lost. They just came up short. And then 23 happened, and they start off real strong, 10-1, yada, yada. Then they get rolled in the playoffs in the Bucs. And things just did not look right. And they could have said, we have enough to win the championship. We were just in the Super Bowl the year before. And they said, no, we don't have enough. We need new coordinators. Our coordinators are junk. And they went out and got the dudes that they know that they wanted. They hired Fangio like that. In 24 hours, made him the highest paid defensive coordinator. Like that. They went out and got Kellen Moore because they knew, no, this guy's good. This guy's real. Got him, and now he's going to be a head coach with the Saints. He's a Super Bowl winner. They went out and got Saquon Barkley. They weren't like, hey, this offense is really good. This offense put up, scored the most points in a Super Bowl loss. And they said, no, we want to get better. And they went out and got Saquon Barkley, which was not a popular decision. They paid money for him, and everyone was like, they paid too much. What are they doing? And they knew that their defense needed to get better. And they went out and got Cooper DeJean, Mitchell, C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They made moves. They said, we are not good enough. And they accepted that reality. They didn't say, oh, we just need to try harder. No, we have the pieces. We were just in the Super Bowl. We just need to. No. They acknowledged that they needed to be even better on both sides of the ball. And because of it, they're Super Bowl winners. And they dominated the Kansas City Chiefs. And they beat the Bills last year. And they beat the Ravens this year. And again, you can explain it away and say, oh, well, it was a close game and the Ravens could have won that game if only this happened or that happened. It's like, again, be my guest. Play that game. It gets you further from the reality. And it's frustrating because it just feels like we're caught in a loop with the Ravens. Because the Ravens, I'm trying to think when the first moment you really understood just how transcendent Lamar Jackson was as a quarterback. Like when you really knew that this guy was different. If you said that this team wouldn't even be in a Super Bowl, it's like, what? How can that be possible? And again, I'm sorry, I'm just not accepting the truth of the Kansas City Chiefs being the Chiefs. Well, the Chiefs, they're Michael Jordan and the Bulls, and they're the Kobe and Shaq and the Lakers and KD, Steph and Clay and Draymond Warriors. No, man, no. Especially when you lose a conference championship game 17-10. And you would have had the chance to play the 49ers, who you rolled in the regular season. Like, that's actually more brutal when you really actually look back in time and think about it. It's like, dude, if you could have just stepped up in that moment, then you could have won the Super Bowl. Like what are, like, again, it's like, what are we doing here? And you can't just say, well, the Chiefs, because the Eagles. And they played a very similar team in 23 and 24. So it's just like, it's just ridiculous at this point. It's so irritating. And so where's the trust? Where's the confidence? And look how, and I brought this up too before, look how the Ravens played the Chiefs in 23 in that conference championship game, and how they fell prey to all of the antics of the Kansas City Chiefs, causing these issues, getting these penalties that they should have had no business doing, trying to do more than they needed to do, tried to get too cute, tried to get too fancy, having all these wonky 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct, unsportsmanlike penalties. And then look at what the Eagles did. Travis Kelce was trying to cause trouble, trying to go after the hothead, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Jalen Carter, two guys that have always causing trouble, Jalen Carter getting penalties and C.J. Gardner-Johnson literally getting thrown out of games. But they knew that's what the Chiefs were going to try to do, especially with Travis Kelce. And they were like, nope. We're better than you. We're not going to do anything different here. We're not going to have us beat ourselves. And so Travis Kelce tries to go after C.J. Gardner-Johnson. C.J. Gardner-Johnson puts his hands behind his back. Again, that's coaching. That's preparation. That's understanding. I'm yet to see the Ravens do that. I'm yet to see the Ravens ever do that in any big game. And at this point, it's an embarrassment. And that's why I'm being so hard on the Ravens right now. I'm not doing this just for the fun of it. I'm really not. I'm not doing this because I'm a hater. Again, go in the past. Go look at any of my Ravens videos. Nothing but positive and me defending them. And I said, in I don't remember when it was, but I said it a handful of times throughout the season, if they don't win the Super Bowl, if they don't make the Super Bowl, it's indefensible. It's indefensible because the Chiefs can be beaten. The Bills can be beaten. You beat the Bills. You dominated the Bills. The Chiefs can clearly be beaten, as we saw the Eagles do it. So it's indefensible. The Steelers were not in your way. The Bengals were not in your way. The Texans were not in your way. What team was in your way this season? Maybe the Eagles, but we will never know. We will never know. And if the Eagles were in your way, how did they leapfrog you then? How did they leapfrog you? And I'm very confident that Baltimore Ravens fans strongly believe that Lamar Jackson is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. So then again, how did they build the better team? How do they have the better coordinators? How do they have the better defense? Harbaugh, he's the defensive coach. He's the man. How did the Eagles have a better defense? Lamar Jackson is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. Okay, why does Jalen Hurts play better in big moments? Why does Jalen Hurts have two of the greatest Super Bowl performances of all time? You got to answer those questions. You have to answer those questions. When you have the answers to those questions, then you know what decisions need to be made. And then you can make those decisions, and then you can win Super Bowls. But until then, it's just going to be the same thing. We're just going cyclical. And if next season I'm watching a Baltimore Ravens game and I'm seeing the failure to execute, I'm going to just, I'll legitimately lose my mind. I got in a conversation with someone in the comment section in my previous Ravens video, and they said, oh, well, the Ravens didn't really know who they were week one, and that's why they lost to the Chiefs. Under normal circumstances, I could agree with that. Under normal circumstances, I could agree with that. But you were going up against the Chiefs, who you said you were better than them, You were at home. You had the better seed. They beat you. They ended your season. They ended your ability to win a Super Bowl. And then it was week 1. And the revenge should have been massive. It should have been an avalanche. And again, that's how the Philadelphia Eagles treated the Chiefs. It was, we are getting revenge for that 22 loss. And they played like it. And the Eagles now have beaten the Chiefs twice since that loss. They're 2-1 against the Chiefs in the last 2 years. In the last 3 years, I guess. And the Ravens are 0-2. Regular season and AFC Championship game. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. I hope you guys can perceive this as frustration and not bashing the Ravens, because it's not the intention. And it's like, the frustration and passion comes from a place of like, they should be better. He shouldn't be saying, we have everything you want to win a championship. He should be, we are the champions. You know, that's actually the wrong statement to say. We have everything you want to win a championship. Then why didn't you win the championship? Because you didn't execute? Well, then why didn't you execute? Are the coaches not good enough then? If the coaches are not good enough, then you don't have everything that you want to win a championship. And if you didn't step up when you needed to step up, well, then you weren't good enough. Then you don't have everything you need to win a championship. Then you don't have it. It's very binary. You either got it or you don't. It's one thing if you dealt with, like, again, Lamar Jackson getting banged up, Derrick Henry. And again, I grant Zay Flowers would have helped against the Buffalo Bills. But I do not think that they were Zay Flowers away from winning the Super Bowl. That is not how this season unfolded. And again, if that helps you sleep at night, by all means, fine. But it does not help you get to the truth. It does not help you get to the reality. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Baltimore Ravens? Do you think they have everything you'd want to win a championship? Where do you think the Ravens go from here? What do you think an Eagles win against the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl? Does that mean anything to a Baltimore Ravens fan? Does that give them any type of insight? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.